morning, everybody. It is literally 5 o'clock in the morning and I'm up for everybody else. But I really want to talk to you guys about something that has been on my mind a lot lately, because I've been helping my friend through something and it's literally all I've been thinking about. And that is sleep training. I know that it's a controversial topic. I know that sleep training has become this thing that gets people all up in arms, but I am pro sleep training. I believe in sleep training your child, and you can do whatever you want with your child. I believe in sleep training my child. I am attempting to help my friend sleep train her baby because that is what she is wanting to do. By the time she goes back to work, her baby will be about 6 months old, and she really needs him to be in his own room on a schedule. Sorry, my chair is squeaky. Able to soothe himself back to sleep in the middle of the night. It's really important. So we've been working towards that. So I'm wanting to share my tips for sleep training because I have 2 kids. If you've watched this channel before, you know that. But I have 2 kids. One is 6, one is almost 2. He'll be 2 in October. And they both are amazing sleepers. And that is why she came to me for help. So both of my kids put themselves to sleep at night. We put them in their bed wide awake, completely awake, and then they put themselves to sleep. That is what they do. Even our 1-year-old, and he has been doing this for almost a year now. It is very important to us. It is very important that our kids learned that skill, because it is a skill. It is not something that kids are just normally learn, they don't come out of the womb knowing how to do this. My tips for sleep training. First and foremost, the earlier you start, the better. My kids have never slept anywhere but in their cribs. They don't sleep in our beds, they don't sleep in a swing, they don't sleep in a rocking play, they don't sleep in anything that moves or vibrates. From day one, it has been in their crib. The only other option to that would be a stationary, like a pack and play or something like that, because you do not want them to get used to that moving motion. You don't want them to get used to swinging to sleep, because that is not natural. That is not what is gonna happen for the rest of their life. Unless they live in a hammock, they're not gonna swing to sleep. So you're setting yourself up for a really difficult time. So train them to sleep early in a stationary bed. It is so important. Now, if you've already done that, just stay tuned. I'm gonna get to it. Okay, when your kids are a baby and you're rocking them to sleep, and when your kids are newborns, I guess, when you're rocking them to sleep or you're feeding them to sleep or whatever you choose to do to put them to sleep, always hum the same song. That is so important. It is so important. I don't even know what the song is called, but it's always the same. And it's the same song for Ellie and it's the same one for Finn. And it's gotten to the point now, they associate that song with sleeping so much that the other day Lincoln was here and I'm holding Lincoln, trying to calm him down, trying. And I ended up humming the same song, and Finn went and got his pacifier and came and laid down next to me. Cause he was like, okay, I'm ready for bed, what's up? He was nowhere near nap time, but he heard the song and he was like, all right, time for bed, let's go. So it was just, anyway. So always hum the same song. It's a lullaby, if it's a song that means something to you, a Beatles song, whatever. Just make sure it's always the same one. That way, whenever you go in the room in the middle of the night and you're rubbing their back because they're crying, you can hum the song quietly and they're like, oh, that's right, it's time for bed. So it's like a sensory thing. So the next important thing, our kids have never slept in our room. I don't think that this has anything to do with sleep training. It's just something that my husband and I have decided to do. I think it is possible to sleep train your kids as long as they have their own space and they're not sleeping directly next to you. It is possible to sleep train your baby in your room. It's totally possible. Nothing wrong with it. I personally just don't want my kids in my room. I like having privacy. So we swaddle whenever they're babies. Whenever they're newborns, either learn to swaddle really well or get something that swaddles for you. So swaddling is really important because as newborns, they naturally, whenever they wake up, they do that. So instead of calmly waking up and then calmly putting themselves back to sleep, they wake up and then they're awake, like they freak out. And so if you have them swaddled, they can't do that. And so it's like they are still stuck and they still are just cozy and comfy and they just calmly wake up. So that's very important. Swaddling, I think, is very important. It's not necessary, but it is very important. My daughter, she was swaddled and past 1 year old. Like, she loves being swaddled. She's 6 now and I don't swaddle her anymore. That's crazy. But she loved being swaddled, and it got to the point where I was literally, I couldn't even swaddle her legs anymore. Like, she would still just want to be swaddled, and I'd swaddle her arms close to her and she would go to sleep like that. She'd break it in 5 minutes, but she would want to be swaddled to go to bed. I thought it was adorable. A bedtime routine is really important. It should be calming. It should be like the 3 B's, bath, books, bed. A lot of people swear by that. That's not something that we did, but it should be calming. It should be loving. It should be, they should feel like the mommy love or the daddy love, because my husband puts my kids to bed sometimes, or actually we both put them to bed most times. And it should be this, like, they should feel that. They should feel that it's coming from a loving place, and that you do, like, I know you're going to bed and I'll see you in the morning and it's gonna be nice and I love you, good night, sweetheart, I love you. But my daughter gets 2 songs. It doesn't matter. You don't need to know their bedtime routine. Make up your own. It's important to know your own kids. That's the next part. It is important to know your kids. My kids both sleep trained completely differently. Ellie, super easy, super duper easy. It was one day we're having to rock her, the next day she's in bed by herself. It was nothing. Finn was completely different. I'm having, like, it was feed him his bottle because he was formula fed. That's a whole different story. Feed him his bottle, hold him, let him fall asleep, and then go put him in bed. It was that for a long time, and then once he was asleep, like, once I was like, okay, I think it's time to put him in bed. He was almost 1, which is really late for us. So it was, they both sleep trained very differently, and that's an important part, is knowing your child and knowing where your kid is in their development process and knowing where you are in that process as well. But also knowing that you're gonna have to push your child and you're gonna have to push yourself. Like, you're gonna have to step up and be strong, and there's gonna be crying. I'm not talking about cry it out. I'm not talking about that at all. We don't do cry it out, but it still sucks. Sleep training sucks. But trust me, after less than a week, like, if you do it, it takes less than a week for them to figure it out. And then you have the rest of their lives of really good sleepers, and that's really important. I'll get to that in a minute. So, actually sleep training. What do you do? What do we do? Okay, so the baseline, what happens? Feel free to deviate, because like I said, your kid, your method, nobody can ever tell you that your way of doing this is wrong, because there is no wrong way. You just need to take the proper steps to go towards sleep training. If you are taking those steps every day, I promise you it's gonna work. It's gonna suck, but I promise you it's gonna work. Very, very base method of what we did is make sure that your child is comfortable in their room. That is very important. That's something that my friend is having to deal with right now. I should probably tell her that, because I don't think I told her that. He has never slept in his room, so now she's putting him in his room and sleep training at the exact same time, and it's not working. So I mean, it's only been 2 nights, and I actually don't know what last night was. make sure your baby is comfortable, like, and is aware of the space. Make sure they're comfortable in that space. It's very important, because if they wake up in the middle of the night and I'm in a new place, what is going on? That's gonna be scary. I mean, I guess it really gets into what you would think that babies are aware of, but I think babies, even babies, are aware whenever they're in a new place and they don't see anything that they recognize. So make sure that they have been in this space before. Maybe they've played in there a lot, or in my case, my kids slept in there from the beginning. So even whenever I wasn't sleep training, even whenever I put them down completely asleep and then went in the second they woke up, they were always in that one room. It's important that they're comfortable in their space. The second thing is to make sure that it's dark. Make sure that it's quiet, unless you have a sound machine. I mean, if they've already been sleeping with a sound machine, keep that sound machine going. I recommend no night lights. If you want to use a night light, that's fine. If you have already used a night light, keep the night light. I recommend no night lights because it's, I don't know. I'm sure there's a scientific reason. I'm just not gonna look it up. If you wanna use one, use one. If you don't, don't. I don't use them. I mean, the kids use them now, or Ellie uses one now because she's 6 and she needs to be able to see, like, to go to the bathroom and stuff. But I just don't think that babies need night lights, but that's fine. Whenever you are actually sleep training, you want to put the baby down. You want to hold them, swaddle them, rock them, do whatever. Put them down when they're almost asleep. I mean, like right in that twilight sleep, and right before they get into a deep sleep. And then you put them down in their bed. They may stir a little bit, they may cry a little bit. You walk out of the room, do not talk to them, do not turn on the light, walk out the room, close the door as quietly as you can, be quiet. You're like a ninja at this point. Like, you do not want to make a noise. So you walk out of the room and you wait. If you wait by the door, why? Why? Go do something. Go watch your favorite TV show for 5 minutes. Go read your favorite book for 5 minutes. Go to the bathroom by yourself for 5 minutes. Go do something for 5 minutes. If they're crying, it's 5 minutes. They're gonna be okay. It is only 5 minutes. And then you go back in. Don't talk to them. Don't turn on the lights. You go back in and you rub their belly. If they had flipped, if they're older, I mean, some kids are older when they're sleep training. If they've flipped over to their back and you're okay with them sleeping on their belly, you rub their back, you calm them down. Don't pick them up. This is baseline. Like, this is absolute minimum. Like, you're allowed to deviate, it's fine, but this is where you should, like, this is where you should be thinking. This is the process you should be thinking about. Calm them down. They get about 30 seconds of calming down, and then you walk out, and then you give it 7 minutes, and then you go do something for 7 minutes. It is hard. It sucks. It sucks listening to them cry. It's horrible, but it is important. It is very important to teach your kids to calm themselves down. It is very important to teach your kids that you're not going to be there to settle them whenever something happens that they don't like. All of this is important life lessons, but mostly it's also just important because you deserve to sleep at night. You deserve to get a good night's sleep. You deserve that. They deserve a better mommy or a better daddy because you've gotten a better night's sleep at night. And all of it is just because they need to learn how to sleep by themselves. That's it. That's all it is that they need to learn to sleep and you need to get some sleep. So what, I mean, I don't understand like what the problem is with sleep training, but I mean, I'm sure somebody's gonna tell me, so that's fine. Leave comments down below. You continue ramping up. It is like you ramp up your time. If they are just not calming themselves, if they are not settling down, and I mean it, if they are just not doing it, then stop. Don't make them cry it out all night. That's mean. That's awful. It's okay to let your child cry for 5 minutes. It's okay to let your child cry for 20 minutes. It's fine. They're gonna be fine. As long as you know that they are safe and they are fed and their diaper is not exploding out of their bed, they are fine. They're gonna be fine. But it's important that you give them time to soothe themselves, because their entire lives, their cry has gotten you to come. Their cry has alerted you and you've been right on top of them. So they're just thinking, okay, well, this cry is just not working. Let me get a little louder. Well, that's not working either. Let me get a little louder. Oh, that's not working. Let me get a little louder. So, but they need to learn that's not gonna work right now. Because right now, you need to go to bed. Crying does not work right now. You need to go to bed. Now, in the case of my friend who is having trouble because her son is hard-headed and he cries and cries, and I've watched him for a few days and he will cry for hours on end, and even with being soothed, the baby does not stop. And it is unnerving because every single one of his cries, all of his cues sound like you're breaking his leg. They are all so painful and it's scary. And so it is, I understand where she's coming from. And so if your child screams like that, I get it. It is hard. My kids never screamed like that. So it is, it's hard. For her, what we are gonna try next is that I told her that she needs to start by putting him to sleep in his bed. Like putting him, getting him to sleep, rocking him to sleep, nursing him to sleep, whatever you have to do to get him to sleep, put him to sleep, and then put him in his bed so he gets comfortable in his bed, so he's used to being in his bed. So this becomes the place where you sleep. If your baby is not going to go to sleep, and if he's just crying and crying and crying, then stop. It's not time. Figure out another way to do it. Don't do it that way. Do it a different way. So in case of my friend, we are changing the way she's doing it. We're gonna change from putting him to bed in a twilight sleep to putting him to bed totally asleep. So he learns that that bed is for sleeping. Whenever he wakes up, that bed is for sleeping, and like he needs to learn that first. And so it's gonna be a very gradual process for him. It's gonna take a little longer. It's important that you're consistent, but it's also important to realize if something's not working. And if something is not working for your child, then it's not working. After the first night, my friend texted me and she was like, I will pay you to come do this. I will pay you to come over here and sleep train this baby. And I was like, no, I can give you tips, I can help you out, but that's not my child. Like, it's not my baby. And I don't mean that it's not my responsibility. That's not, because I would love to do it for her. I love helping Megan. I love, like, I've always loved doing that. And I love Lincoln. I love Snuggles. But it's important that you know your child, and it's important that you know what they are screaming about, and it's important that you know where they are, and that it's important that they feel comforted by you. Lincoln doesn't feel comforted by me. I'm his nanny Jill. Like, I hold him, I play with him, whatever, but I'm not his mom. And it's important that he feels that. It's important that he learns that, and it's important that he feels like it's okay. And so I was like, I can't do that. It has to come from you. Now, if I spent every day with Lincoln for the next like 3 months and then I tried, I could probably do it. Actually, I told her I'd do it for Christmas if he's not sleep trained by then, but we'll see. The most important thing is, if something is working, if you see that they are starting to calm down, do not go in there. If you see that they are like starting to settle themselves, starting to learn to settle themselves, do not go in there. It's also important that you are consistent. Every single night needs to be the same. Every single comforting session needs to be the same. Every time they're crying and you go in there, it needs to be the same. Walk in quiet, don't turn on the light, rub their belly or their back, hum the same song, walk out. That's it. You don't talk to them, don't pick them up. Unless they need, unless you've deviated, that's fine, but that's the baseline again. But again, if you need to change it, change it. I mean, nobody knows your baby better than you do. You're the mama. So you do what you need to do. Just to give you an idea, sleep training is of what sleep training has meant for us. Okay, my daughter is 6 years old. She has never come and climbed in our bed in the middle of the night. Not for a nightmare, not for a thunderstorm. She's called for us for a thunderstorm. But in that case, we've trained her through a thunderstorm. So she's called for us, but she has literally never gotten out of her bed. I mean, she goes to the bathroom and then she gets back in. She doesn't get out of her bed to play. She doesn't get out of her bed to go wander around the house. We have a gate up because I was afraid she was gonna do that, but she literally does not. She wakes up in the middle of the night, she rolls over, talks to her stuffed animals because she has a few in her bed, talks to her stuffed animals, maybe sings to them, makes up stories, whatever, and then she goes back to sleep. It's no big deal. It's just her own little private time. She soothes herself. Finn is phenomenal. Like, I can put him down wide awake and he's asleep within 2 minutes. And then if he wakes up in the middle of the night, he'll wake up. He has no toys in his bed. He'll wake up and just sit there, look around his room, and go back to bed within 5 minutes. Like it's nothing. He puts himself back to sleep. This is the only con, the one con of sleep training that I've ever complained about is that they don't fall asleep in weird places. I don't have any of those crazy pictures where your kids fall asleep like half off the couch, or whenever they fall asleep like on the toilet. Like, my kids don't do that. I'm a huge fan of sleep training. I think that it's amazing. I think that, I mean, I love it. I've talked about it before on our channel and I really do love it. I think it's important for so many reasons, not only for your kid, but also for your marriage. Like, I think it's great because by 8:30, both of our kids are sound asleep. By 8:30, they're sleeping. And I have 3 hours, 3 whole uninterrupted hours with my husband before I go to sleep. 3 hours by ourselves to do whatever we want to do. I mean, can't leave the house, they're babies, can't leave. But 3 hours to spend with my husband before I go to bed, which is really cool. That is my ramble on sleep training. I hope that it makes sense and I hope that it helps you. And if you are watching this at 2:30 in the morning crying because you're awake and your child's awake and crying, please try this. Just try it. And if it sucks, it's gonna suck. It sucks to sleep train your baby. It really does. It's difficult. But I promise you that it is a few days of terrible, terrible nights for a lifetime of getting to sleep and rest and your child knowing how to put themselves to sleep, which is the best thing. It's the best thing. Sleep training is important. I hope that it helps. If you have any questions or if you have any other pro sleep training advice or any kind of comments, leave them down below, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Oh, we're normally a vlogging channel. Probably should put that in the beginning. Bye.